Welcome into episode number 155 of The Voice Behind the Voice. I'm Sean Aronson, the TV and radio broadcaster for the St. Paul Saints, an independent minor league baseball team in the Twin Cities. A couple of notes on the baseball side. We held our season ticket holder pickup party on Sunday, April the 14th, as I record this on the 15th. And that is the official start, if you will, to things around here. When our fans are able to come out of hibernation and they're able to partake in the first event of the baseball season, that is now when you can officially chime the bells and realize that the baseball season is just around the corner. A lot of events and a lot of things leading up to our season, but that is basically the first one, and I think we were 400 or 500 deep yesterday in terms of the season ticket holders that were able to show up and pick up their tickets from yesterday. So it was a great day all the way around, and things just continue to get busier and busier and busier around here. And I tell people, you've heard me say this a million times, the 6 weeks leading up to the season are the most hectic 6 weeks going on. Matter of fact, my first big deadline happens next week on the 24th. When I have to finalize the program. So I will be off in seclusion somewhere, hunker down, trying to get that done along with everything else that I need to finish up. Before I get to this week's episode, I just want to touch on something real quick. And I don't bring this story up as a humble brag or as a pat on my back, and I hope it doesn't come across that way. But last week's episode, hope you enjoyed it. Dave Kane to the University of Virginia, and I told you last week I was fortunate enough to sit down with 3 of the 4 Final Four broadcasters that were in town. I received a very, very generous email from a gentleman by the name of John Chalesnik. Now, if you don't know John Chalesnik, he does a website, STAA, that basically is the hub for all things broadcasting, and it's where a lot of broadcasters go to find out what jobs are available out there. He does have a paid service as well that I've utilized in the past. He is tremendous, a former broadcaster. I don't think he does any broadcasting anymore. Maybe he does here and there, but used to work for ESPN, did a lot of things. And John sent me an email message. One of his and he doesn't like the term client, so I don't want to use that, but someone who subscribes to STAA, Jeff Haxton, who does Texas Tech, who you will hear that episode a few weeks from now. But he was in talks with Jeff after he was done with the Final Four, and John asked Jeff, he said, you did a lot of interviews. Which interview stood out? And John told me without hesitation, Jeff said, Sean Aronson. He said he was so prepared. He had all this information, and as the email said, he knew things that only my dad would know. And I bring this up to say that, to me, it does not matter who you are, that if you are giving me the time to sit down amongst your busy schedule, all these broadcasters have busy schedules, right? They're all trying to get ready for some sort of game, and Jeff is trying to get ready for the biggest moment of his life, the semifinal game. We had talked a couple of days before that. But if you are kind enough to give me that time, it is my job, it is my duty to the broadcaster and to you, the listener, to do my due diligence, do my homework, and be as prepared as possible. And I've probably brought this up before, but it's the number one compliment I get from these broadcasters is how much information I have, how I come to the table with all these different storylines and things that they haven't thought about in a while. And I tell them, look, if I sit across from another broadcaster and I have not done my research, and I just sat down and say, so, tell me how you got started, immediately they would shut it down. They've done those interviews a million times. But when you come to the table and have done your homework, like you would for any game you're going to broadcast, then you are going to get the most out of the person you're sitting across from. And I do anywhere between 2 to 4 hours of research, at least, on everyone that I sit down, and I scour a number of different places. I think you've heard me talk about it before. Someone had brought up probably a couple weeks ago, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago on an episode we played. Someone said that, that piece of information was on my Wikipedia page or whatever. And I said, and this was the truth, I don't rely on Wikipedia. If it's out there, I'll look at it, but I need a second or third source where that story came from before I jot it down. And that doesn't mean that everything that I read or my reading comprehension is always accurate. That doesn't always happen. But again, I think it does a disservice if you don't come to the table prepared. So I say all that to let you know that you are getting the most out of me as well as the person that I'm sitting down with, because they can tell that I've done the research and they're going to be more apt to share their interesting stories. So again, I want to thank Jeff Haxton. I want to thank John Chalesnik for sending me that kind message. And the Jeff Haxton interview will play a few weeks down the road. I was able to do one with Michigan State's broadcaster as well. So, and again, that one will play out, sometime in the next few weeks. But for this week, for episode number 155, it is Ed Cohen of the New York Knicks. Young guy, guy that is passionate about what he does, has some tremendous stories, got his hands involved in anything and everything that he could. My favorite little nugget was some of the international broadcasting that he was doing, some of the international events that he was doing. Most of them he did not go over there to broadcast, but he worked for a service that really took to these international events, some Japanese baseball games and just a bunch of different events. And he talks about having to do those in a studio. I believe it was in New York or in Connecticut, wherever it was. But really just a genuinely nice guy. You will notice one thing. We were at the hotel where the team stays at. Most of the time, I'm able to get them to turn down the music in there. There are going to be a couple of episodes, this one included, where I did not get the music turned down. So you're going to hear some top 40 music in the background. So again, you're sort of used to these other noises going on. But Ed, just a genuinely nice guy. And I was grateful that he was able to sit down with me when the Knicks were in town. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, you can do so on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to rate the podcast as well. Again, that's how the podcast climbs up the charts on recommendations for people out there. Social media, find us on Twitter at TheVoiceBTV, Facebook, facebook.com/TheVoiceBTV, and you can always email me, thevoicebtv@gmail.com. All right, let's get to it. Episode number 155 with Ed Cohen of the New York Knicks. JW, roll the open.
I got a call that there's a network in Stamford that has the U.S. rights to these international events, Japanese baseball. And you say, oh, it's great. So what's the first pitch? 5 a.m. during the week and 1 a.m. on the weekends. So it's, day game after night game. I had no idea how to structure when I went to bed, anything else. The 1 a.m. games were so weird in terms of when to sleep and when to prepare and when to get ready.